everyone. Karen the Warp Spinster here. Thanks for spending some time with me today. We had monsoonal rains last night and this morning, and there's a squirrel eating my marigolds out there. Doggone it. Anyway, welcome to my backyard zoo and my indoor zoo sometimes. Today I want to start a series about circles, and there are many ways you can make circles. We'll talk about a number of them. One I have already done a video on. This is how I generally do my circles for applique. I like to do hand applique. So this is my method for doing that. I will post in the description below a link to the video where I talk about how I do this. Short story, long story short, I guess, not so long. I cut a circle out of, pardon the rattle, manila file folder. I have circles of various sizes as paper punches, but you could use anything that's the right size. You could use a compass, an old style school compass, which oh, here's one, sort of old school. So here's a compass that I have. It's just in pen form, but you can draw circles with that. Use a plate, whatever, to get circles. And then I sew a running stitch, not a basting stitch, not huge, but doesn't have to be teeny tiny, and draw then the circle up, the fabric circle up around the cardboard circle. And because it's a pretty perfect circle from the paper punch, it pulls it up very nicely, and then I can press it into that shape and remove this cardboard. So that's how I generally do that. This one I do have lined with some interfacing, maybe it's a little bit of fleece, because that will prevent whatever is underneath from bleeding through. So for example, if I put this on this black and white fabric, it's likely that the black from the fabric will shadow through this. May work in some cases. I didn't want it in this case, so I still have this one lined. If it's not too bad, then you could just use a lightweight interfacing or something in between it. You can of course do raw edge applique where you fuse it down and then stitch around the edge, which we will probably do some of in the future. We will also talk about how to piece circles, which I know freaks some people out, and it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. Don't freak out. This one was my first attempt at it. I don't think I've ever pieced circles before I did this, and you can see it isn't exactly perfect, but it certainly reads like a circle. And I actually did a circle within a circle to make a ring. This was my second attempt, and you can see it's much better. So once you get over the fear of failure, I guess, it's easier to do. So we'll talk about doing that, both pieced circles and rings. I might add that a friend of mine, Heather Black, who is Quiltachusetts on Instagram, does some wonderful things with circles, and she's pieced circles forever. She has some great patterns, and a couple days after my last video, I said there are some things that I want to do with circles, and lo and behold, a couple days later, she published what she'd been doing with circles, which she had some ideas similar to what I had in mind. So great minds think alike, I guess. So do check out Heather's Instagram feed. She has some lovely things there. All right, so today though, we are going to talk about reverse applique, which is just as you would expect it. So this will be my, say this is my top piece of fabric. I'm going to turn under these edges and applique them on top of the background fabric. So instead of putting the applique piece on top of the background, this is going to be, I'm going to take that piece out so that the background shows, and then do whatever around here. It could be raw edge applique, it could be turned under, whatever. We're going to try a couple of different methods today. And to do that, we are going to start with cutting the circles. As I hinted in the beginning of the video, there are a variety of ways you can draw circles and then cut circles. I've got this good sized paper punch. It's going to give me it's this size circle. You can, I also have a collection, a couple sets of templates for machine piecing, machine quilting. And one set has an exterior circle and then also an interior circle. The exterior circles, I can actually use a rotary cutter around it. The inside is just a little too small to be able to do that, but I can certainly use it to draw. So I get multiple sizes of circles from just a few templates. And then I have some that are solid. You don't need to invest in those. I had them already for machine quilting. If you have an embroidery hoop, or you can go out and buy an inexpensive embroidery hoop. Wooden embroidery hoops are pretty inexpensive. Even the plastic ones aren't too bad. This is from a set. The outside ring will have this piece at the top where you can adjust the sizes, but the inside ring won't have that, so you could use that. Most embroidery hoops will not have these three things here. These are for putting on a stand, but you would also could use the inside of the hoop if that happens to be smoother. Or as I said, you can use a plate. There are also just circle templates. I know I had a Fisker's template that had lots of circles in it, and you could use their special cutter to do them. Don't know what happened to it. Probably gave it to someone. But office supply stores, any place that sells drafting kind of equipment, scrapbooking. I'm pretty sure I have, no, probably gave that away. Circle templates that you can get for designing layouts and scrapbooks. So lots of places you can get circles. Now, my plan today is to use some of this screaming yellow. This canary yellow, and I want to do a circle reverse applique onto this fabric. Now, this is going to shadow through quite handily, so if I do not want that on the outside, remember the inside is going to be cut out and it will show this fabric, but I would have the shadowing all around here, and I want to avoid that in this case. So, first thing I'm going to do is get this ready. Now, I'm going to take my manila folder and cut, if I can find my, there it is, and cut the circle here. I apologize for extra shadows today because it is so gloomy and rainy out. I had to do additional lights and they're just going to shadow through. So I'm going to, and the table's going to shake, sorry, punch this out and then remove it from the cutter. Now I can have my choice of where I place this. Of course, I could put it right in the center, the exact center, or I could move it off center, which I will do because me. But if you are a more symmetrical person and you want it in the center, there's a non-zero chance that you're not going to really get it in the center of what you've cut here. So what I would suggest is that you still aim for the center, but have this piece cut larger than you want in the end, and then you can trim it so that this is in the center. But I think I want mine about here. This is just going to make a small block, so the edges of the block are going to be here. I'm still going to have the black underneath. Of course, I would not have to, we'll get to that. Never mind, Karen, don't get ahead of yourself. So here is the circle that I want. And this is actually how things are going to look. This is going to be the background fabric, and then the rest of this will be the yellow. That will be the black, and then the black and white is going to show through there. Now, I can do a fairly traditional kind of thing, and let's go ahead and do that. We have time today, right? So I'm going to take this circle. I could use either this or this, and just draw a light pencil line around. This may be such that I can see it, but you can't, but you'll know there's a circle there. I can see it. Be harder for you, but you can see that there's a circle there. Now I want to cut this out and tuck these edges in underneath. So I need to take a scissors, and I can use a larger one or a smaller one. Just fold the center and nip it so that I can get my scissors in there. And then I'm going to trim it to about 1/4 of an inch. You can go larger than that if you want. About 1/4 of an inch in from the circle, all the way around the circle. And now I'm going to clip the curves here, because if I don't, then it will be trying to stretch too much, and it will be a mess. So I'm going to clip from the inside edge up to, but not actually clipping, the pencil line. And the width, or the number of these that you're going to cut and how far apart, I'm going to do it about like that. If you do them too small, it's going to be very difficult to get a smooth curve. Pardon my thumbs again. I don't know, usually in the winter is when they do this funny cracking, but anyway, I am also not doing them too far apart, because then when I press that back, I'm going to necessarily have a straight line there. It's going to be harder to get a curve. So I don't want it to be too wide, don't want it to be too narrow. To watch me do all that. And then when I've finished with that all the way around, I'm going to just kind of roll it back between my thumb and forefinger. Going the wrong way here. Roll it to the back. And I am just barely turning that pencil line under. I don't want to see the pencil line, but that is my guide for finger pressing this as I go around. And take some time to do it so that you get as smooth a curve as possible. I am going to be machine appliquing this, and that will hide a few venial sins, but not severe ones. So I will just go through and finger press that back, and then I can take it to the iron and make a better press. And I could also turn it over and press from the back. And that will be, let me do that quickly here, just for this stretch that I've done. And that's a decent curve. It's going to be a decent circle. When I finish that, I will come back and we'll take it from there. And here is my finished circle. I will say it's not the most perfect circle I've ever done, but it's pretty good. I did turn it over and also press it from the back. Again, next time, and you will want to be a little more precise in how you cut this inner circle so that your seam allowances are more even and you see them here. And I could sort of roll a little bit with the iron gently as I pressed that back. This is all bias, remember, so don't be going too crazy with it. And when you are handling this piece, be careful not to stretch things out much. Be gentle. All right, now I am going to applique this down. I am going to do it on a solid print, an unpieced print. But you, of course, could do all kinds of things inside here. In fact, I might do that. Oh, or over, ooh. There's another idea. All right, so we're gonna start out doing this though, and then I am going to do a machine applique around here. I could do a hand applique. If I did that, I would be able to perfect this curve even more as I go along. I could turn under with my needle. But we're going to do a machine applique. Before I do that, I want to line this yellow piece so that this doesn't shadow, the black and white doesn't shadow through. And I'm just going to cut a piece of interfacing. I actually have some fusible interfacing here. Is this fusible? I think so. This is just a lightweight and it's actually a knit. Do I want to use that? Now I'm going to get a different interfacing, or, oh, this would be fun. I have some fusible fleece, which I could use to line it. And in fact, that's an idea too. I might, instead of using a glue kind of thing, I might cut a piece of, say, fusible web, cut a larger circle around here, or maybe the size of this, cut out the circle, have the fusible part on the bottom, cut out the circle, and then when I pulled back on these pieces, it would be coming back onto this fusible and I could fuse it. I would need an applique pressing sheet or something on top of it so that it didn't fuse my iron. And then this could be fused on the block. Interesting thought. I'm going to do it this way, however, and cut this fusible fleece. Doesn't have to be fusible, but in this case it's going to be, because that's what I have. Cut that the same size. Wouldn't even have to fuse it, actually. And then that will serve as the lining so it doesn't shadow through. And I will cut this center circle a little bit larger. I might even tuck this under to the other side so that the seams don't shadow through either. In which case this could still be a tiny bit smaller. Yes, I'm going to try that. So I will cut a piece of this fusible fleece the size of this screaming yellow. Should call it canary yellow, I guess. Cut this circle out in the appropriate place and then fuse this on. It's not a rocket science kind of thing. You all know how to fuse. All right, I'm going to do that off camera so the camera doesn't shake all over creation. Just to show you how I did this, I turned the fleece over so that I wasn't trying to draw on the fusible side. Doesn't matter if you don't have fusible fleece or interfacing or whatever you're using. And then I used a pencil to just mark 4 spots around so that I could place it. And then I put my template down, lined it up with those marks, and used a marker that I could really see going around. I didn't want to use the marker while this was on there because I didn't want to risk getting that on there. So that's drawn and ready to cut out now. And I'm cutting it just a little bit outside that line. to make sure that I'm not going to be hanging out on the outside or the inside of that circle cut in the yellow. I have that circle cut and the fusible is on the back at the moment, so I can decide whether I want to pull these edges out and then prepare to have those fused. When I fuse it on, this is kind of fiddly. My hand's in the way. And of course, I'm going to have to be very careful about that fusible on my iron. I could also, if I didn't want to fiddle with this, just put this piece on top here. So I'm going to do that. Grab an applique pressing sheet just as a caution. So now I've got that under. I'm not entirely certain that that will be a great circle because of the thickness of the fleece. I'm not entirely sure I would be happy with how that turned out. If it were a thinner piece of, say, interfacing. All right, I'm going to try it this way, and if it's an abject failure, then we'll do what we can to cover it with the applique stitch. Might be all right. I'm going to get my applique pressing sheet and we'll see what happens. So I have my pressing sheet, and I still don't want to just lean in on the pressing sheet, but I'm going to put it there just as a precaution and see if I can get this lightly fused on there. And that piece is looking funky, didn't get turned under. Turned over or whatever. Come on to the top. And then I can, and I'm being careful I'm not setting the heel of my iron down, because I do not want to. I want to tack that and see how it's going on the front side. Well, I think it could be okay. It's not great. If I were hand appliquing that, I would have problems with it, because I don't think it's, you can see that it's not, it's got the sort of straight edges rather than a smooth curve. So I'm wondering if I don't want to, no, I think I want to be a little fussy about how this gets done. I also should be doing this not on my cutting mat, hey? Be able to see all my messy workspace here. Another nice thing about putting this underneath this liner on here is that it makes it a little more stable. Pressing sheet is hot. Beware. I'm kind of rolling my iron a little bit here. It isn't doing a, this is really risky, people, don't do this, never mind. Don't want to mess up my iron, and I'm not using steam here. I just don't use steam. And now I think I've got that pretty well done. I can put the pressing sheet down. Try not to lay into it too hard, and then it just peels right off. Okay. Yeah, I'm not entirely happy with that, to be honest with you. The stitching will help with that whole concept, but trying to roll it around the thickness of the fleece is tricky. But I guess that gives me a little bit something more if I do it with my finger now. Things are still a little warm. I can affect that a bit. I could also have cut that fleece even a little larger, the hole a little larger, so that I didn't really have fleece at the edges here. It was just fabric, and the fleece would pick up and start lining or masking back from there. This is looking a little better as I'm fiddling with it. And of course, once the stitching is on it, it's going to mask that more. So lessons learned from this, use an applique pressing sheet. And if you are going to have the fusible on the back so that this is going to get fused to this piece, then you want to cut this circle out a little bit larger so that you have room to turn the edges under before it hits the edge of the fleece, because that will be a hill it needs to climb. That's lessons for me. Of course, you can try this method, different method, and see what works for you. And of course, when you find something successful, share it with us. Now, the other thing that comes to mind is that this block is going to be pretty thick if I put this behind it and fuse it. That may be all right. You may not like that. I think it would be perfectly acceptable if I didn't have this fleece on there, but I want that in order to mask this. If, however, I don't have this block all around here, but just this circle, so I could cut out a circle a little larger than this hole and stitch it to that, then I wouldn't have to have all of this fleece. So that's an option too. We've tried the fleece. We could leave a little bit of fleece or some kind of liner around the edges so that this doesn't show through as much. Or we could cut this just enough larger that that shadow is going to be limited to where we already have 2 layers because these are folded back. Don't you love this print? I left the selvage out in front of me here so that I could tell you what it was. I've had it for a while. I don't know if you can get it anymore. You might be able to get it from someone on Etsy. This is Dana Simpson, S-I-M-S-O-N. Oh, 2003, yeah. Well, might happen. Fortunately, I got quite a chunk of it, and it's from Marcus Brothers. All right. I really love that print. Really, really love that print. I think if I can, I might actually remove the fleece and try cutting a circle just a little bit larger than that and then stitch it. The stitching will also help to mask out some of that shadowing if I do just a small bit. I would need to make sure that this isn't going to shift this won't shift when I'm doing the stitching. So let's see if I can, I don't think this is, I think I can still pull these off. Yes, so I'm going to do this off camera. You don't need to watch me pulling this off the fusible fleece. I'll abandon it if at any point it gets messy, but I think it'll be all right. Oh, wait. No, that's right. I will do this and be back. And we're back. Every time I press it, it gets a little funkier on the curve. So I'm going to stop messing with it, and I'm going to cut a slightly larger circle out of this, and we'll proceed, oops, from there. So I have this ready to go now. I'm going to put a stabilizer underneath it, and I think I'm actually going to use this glue pen a little bit to glue baste this toward the outer edge of this black circle so that I don't hit it with my needle any more than I have to. And I could pin baste it to hold it in place. So in areas that I'm not stitching, I could put pins in, and I would use my favorite little, whoops, Clover extra fine quilting pins. And say I'm going to be starting up here, then I could use pins like that around here just to keep it from shifting while I'm stitching. And then of course, as I come to those pins, I'll take them out. That might be the easiest way to do it and less goopy for my needle. And I like to use these nice fine pins, extra fine pins, because they don't distort the fabric as much when you put them in. These flathead pins, which I use because I need to for, say, kaleidoscope or stack and knot kind of things, because I need flat heads for the ruler to go over them, but they are pretty thick. So I like these fine ones. And now I did some looking for threads, and I had basically 3 choices. My preference for embroidery on the machine is Robison Anton, but I'm not opposed to others. I just have been collecting Robison Anton. I used Sulky for a long time, and this is, that's interesting, a Coates and Clark rayon. Be my last choice. I'm pretty particular about the thread that I use in my machine. Try and stay away from Coates cotton. I think this is actually the best match, the Sulky. And it doesn't have quite the sheen to it that the others do. Oh, this is a Metler, sorry, it's not a Sulky. So I think that's my best bet. You can barely see it there. I think I'm just going to do a zigzag because it will do curves better than some of the others, and it's a little less noticeable if the curve isn't quite perfect. On some of them, you would really notice if it veered off a little bit. The smaller the circle, the shorter I make the stitch so that it can make that curve more neatly than if I had a big stitch where it would just have to kind of clunk its way around. So I'm going to give that a go. We'll see how it turns out. It's going very well. I'm just doing an even, slow, even turning as the machine is running. And I've chosen to not have the yellow thread bite into the black and white print. I'm doing it all on the yellow. I am starting to get some shadow through here, but when I'm finished, I can go in and do a little bit of trimming there if I think that's necessary. Now, I stopped in the middle, which freaked me out a little bit, but you may be asking yourself, why the heck are we doing this instead of just doing a piece on top? a regular applique. And we're going to explore that more next week. But I like this for a peekaboo kind of effect. Sometimes if I want this upper layer to stand out more, I would do a reverse applique so that this recedes a bit. But it can also be a peekaboo or portholes kind of thing where you have a larger design out here, and rather than cutting that up and trying to get it placed so that it looks like it's part of a larger connected design, you can lay these on top and then you get peaks into that design and they'll be perfectly lined up with each other. You could also take pieces. This one isn't going to be quite large enough. It's just barely large enough. And you could just put that behind it. So if this is actually out of my scrap bin or my crumb bin, and I've got a smaller circle here, so I could actually use that, do something on top of it, and this overlay piece then could tie a bunch of disparate pieces together. This is from, I'm going to guess, the Alice series. So that can be a lot of fun too. You could do, and the thing about these, if you're doing raw edge applique, it's not so bad, but trying to turn under when you've got lots of seams, it's going to be more difficult, and it's more likely that that little seam, or that seamed bit, the edge of the seam, is going to pop out and do funky things. They're harder to control. So I would rather do a reverse applique and do the stitching as I did here. That's all on the overlay rather than going into here. Although in this case, it would be kind of interesting to have, say if I did this in white or red, to have that overlap there. So I think that's one of the advantages. That's two advantages: the overall peekaboo effect, and then being able to use some of these smaller pieces behind, I think, more cleanly going around it than if I had to tuck those under. If I were doing a raw edge applique of that, not quite so much of a problem. If I do not want to have the stitches showing around here, if I were doing, say, I had this yellow on top, then if I'm doing the reverse applique, I can keep all of those stitches on the yellow. If I did it as a raw edge applique, then whatever color of thread I chose would be going up against all of the colors in here, which may be fine. That may be what you're looking for. If it's not, then the reverse applique would keep that one color on the single color outside. Assuming this is a solid color, of course. The outside doesn't have to be. You could do it exactly the opposite. So that's two reasons you might use the reverse applique. Why I left this piece open here is because I want to put something through there, I think. Now, I know it won't necessarily be this. I just happen to have a narrow strip here. So that this runs through there. Oop, that's getting ragged, isn't it? Ooh, what might be even cooler if we had, let's try, say this. I need a kind of narrowish strip of black so that this sets it off a bit from that black and white print. And of course, I put away my rotary cutter. Trying to get some order in my workstation, and I'm just coming and going. This is going to look like a film strip going through there. Ooh. that could be kind of fun. This is the lens of the camera, and there's the strip of film going through. I'm liking this. Pardon all the extraneous threads. I would cut a cleaner copy of that. I think that has some possibilities. I could, of course, do another color behind it too. What have I got to try here? Here's the ubiquitous green I always have. It's not going to be perfect, but it will give us something to see how it looks. Or, it could be another print. What if we have this, say, pink behind? I like this film idea. I'm just looking to see if I like other things. That could be fun. Let's try that one. I love this fabric. This is the Two Sisters fabric. And this would be applique down. I'm losing things other than being discombobulated today. I am losing things. And I'm just threading that underneath there. Well, they both have their merits. Of course, I could do all kinds of layers. I don't know how practical that is, but just for the heck of it. I got plenty of black I can go back to. Cutting a wider one if I need to. I'm probably driving you all up a wall with my slow sentences. Threading a needle. Come on. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I know some of you black and white fans are probably saying, no, leave it like that. Someone commented that she really liked this. I think it was Cindy, maybe. Sorry if I got that wrong. Or maybe it was Michelle. I don't know. Somebody commented that they liked this straight stripe rather than the bias strip on another block. This might be, I could always put another strip on here at some point. Maybe, maybe not. I could also do another smaller circle here. And I do have more of this fabric. Maybe put that underneath that circle. Possibility. How about a different print? Maybe a little wider strip. Maybe. Maybe. Let's say a 1/2 inch strip. wider left. Probably not enough, but it will give us the effect. Probably stretching this circle way out. I think I like that better than the Me and My Sisters, but it may be because it's a wider strip. Of course, a straighter strip. Oh, it wouldn't have to be though. Might be kind of fun to curve. Oh, and just a slight curve that I could probably get the fabrics to do without being on the bias. Well, the pink I could cut on the bias. Black, I really like that straight line effect. What do you think? Straight or curved? It's almost nice to have the straight lines in contrast to the curve. Of course, I could also have pieced or appliqued all of this and just had it all underneath. Certainly an option. Sorry, these tails are bugging me. All these little hairs. Trying to clone on my cutting mat. And that isn't a straight edge. This is life with me. OCD. CDO as it should be, as we librarians would say. What if this was a plain black strip? Don't like it as well. It's not bad, but I don't like it as well. And I even kind of like that this strip is tapered. I could, of course, have it so that this is on the outside and that is coming. Oh, that's actually kind of interesting that way, isn't it? I think it's kind of interesting that way. You may hate it. I would want to make straighter cuts than I have there on the pink. I'm just kerfuffled. It isn't as if I can't do another one. I don't know why I'm having such time with this. Now, I think I want another print here, a color print. I think I'm going to do that. I will cut a better strip of this, or cut this one better, and then a clean strip of this that doesn't have all the roots coming out of it. And then I will applique this, and I will use white on that. And that's going to go through there. Then I can finish this yellow applique, the reverse applique. And then I can applique this, and again, I think, oh, oops, sorry, use white for that one. I'm going to do it. We'll see how it looks. Sorry if you're yelling at me to, no, use the black in the back. I'm going to do this, and I'd love to see what you all do with this instead of what I'm doing. Nope, I want the stripe in there because me. I guess this video is all about me today. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So all I'm going to do is straighten this, make this a straighter strip, applique that on with white, and it's a straight line, so I might do like a cross stitchy kind of thing on it. Then I'm going to finish up this zigzag yellow, then go back to white and do a cleaner strip here. Then I'll be back. Okay, the pink strip is on with that cross stitch that I like. This is, of course, shadowing through here, so I'm going to trim off that pink. So it's not showing through. And now I'm ready to cut a narrow strip of black stripe to run all the way across. I've cut the black stripe 1/2 inch wide. This is 1 inch wide. I think I said 1/2 inch when I was measuring it, but of course that's 1 inch. This is 1/2 inch, and I honestly think I like that better than the narrower strip. Maybe I'll cut a narrower one as well and we can see. So maybe 3/8. Hesitate to go too narrow because then it just gets lost completely in the applique. In the applique. If you are one of our friends from across the pond. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? Marginally better. It's only a hair narrower. All right, I think I'm ready to do that, and this is going to be on top of everything. A little bit of a kind of woven sort of effect. All right, this I'm going to applique, and I think I'm just going back to a simple zigzag for that because the stripe is what I really want to show. And here we are. I've gone back to natural light. We'll see how this works. I have trimmed this up and cleaned it up. One thing that I did, I will work at getting this stabilizer out. But one thing that I did was trim those sort of fan shapes, the darts from back here, and I trimmed it close to the stitching, not into the stitching, but close to the zigzag stitching, and also trimmed the black and white back to that so that there isn't the shadow through. So that is that. And I think I will call that it for today. Next week, I don't know, this didn't turn out how I pictured it at all, so I don't know why I think I can say what I'll be doing next week. So I won't, except that it will be circles. I don't know what it will be, but there will be circles involved. It occurs to me that this will be cut quite short here with the seam. So next time I might move it up a little bit. I could do another cutout circle up here. I don't think I would. I could cut this part out as well. I don't think I want to do that, but I could do another. Oh, I could even do a part of a circle here. I think I would do a different size than this, probably smaller, kind of coming off the edge there, and possibly just this plain black and white print or a different black and white print. I thought for a minute about doing a color print, a bright color print, but I don't know. It's something I would have to try. Maybe we'll try that next week. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all. Let me know what you think, what you might have done differently, what your ideas are. Let me know in the comments. I always enjoy seeing what you have envisioned. And please read other people's comments. They're very interesting. They've got some good ideas, and it's a good chance for us to all learn and play together. So like, subscribe, comment, you know the drill. I hope that I will see you next week. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.